Hey everybody, Joe from Joe's Phenomenal here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about honing steels, what they are, how they're different from a sharpener, the different materials they're made of, when to use them, and most of all, why you need them in your kitchen. So are you ready? Let's get into this. So this right here is a honing steel. This actually is a maintenance device for your knives. Some sets come with these, most do not, and a lot of people just throw these in the drawer because they don't know what they're used for. A lot of people will call these sharpening steels, but the actual term you want to use is honing steel. They're not really designed to sharpen your knife so much, they're designed to straighten the blade. And the point of using this instead of a sharpener would be that it's less destructive on your knife. You can hone your blade several times before you need to go ahead and sharpen it, and therefore the use of honing steel here will make your knives last much longer. How often you would need to use one of these just kind of depends on how you use your knives. If you're in the kitchen every day and you're always chopping hard to chop vegetables and things like that, probably a little bit more often. If you're just chopping really soft meat all the time and you're really easy on your blades and you keep them in a blade block instead of in a drawer, then probably not quite as often. I, as a general rule, like to use the honing steel on my knives either once every time I use them, before I use them, or every 2 times at the latest, just to keep them nice and sharp. If you're really careful with your knives and you keep them honed really well, and you don't just throw them in drawers, you have blade protectors on them, or you keep them in a knife block, probably you're going to be able to go several months, maybe up to a year or so, before you actually have to use a sharpener on your blade, which is really good because every time you use that sharpener, you are going to cut the life of your knives down just a little bit. And if you spend a lot of money on them, that could be very costly to replace those over time. When you're looking to buy one of these, there's a couple of factors you need to consider. Number one is length. This has an 8-inch blade on it. They make them all the way up to about a 12. And what you'd need that for is if you have really long knives, like this 12-inch knife right here.
That's a knife.
You would need a longer honing steel in order to properly hone the blade, because as you can see, it's like coming across here, and I get to the end of my steel, I still got this much blade left over here. Typically, a 10-inch blade will cover most of your knives. A 12-inch will get pretty much every knife you can handle, but they're really big and cumbersome too and a little bit harder to use. I would recommend that if you're in the market for a honing steel, you should probably be thinking about getting a 10-inch. The next thing to consider is the material that it's made out of. You can either get them in stainless steel, or you can get them in ceramic, or you can get diamond-plated ones. Be really careful with the material that you choose, because based upon that, you're going to get much different results when you're dealing with your knives. The first material is stainless steel, which is what I'm using here. They're the cheapest, they're the most durable, and they're also easiest to use. They work great for straightening, and you only lose microscopic amounts of metal from your knives when you use them. The only downside is that since they take away so little metal, you tend to have to hone more often. That's not really a problem for me because I tend to hone my knives every time I use them. So if you pick up a stainless honing steel, just keep in mind you're probably going to want to use that every 1 or 2 times that you use your knives. Make it a habit, and then it'll just be something that you just normally do all the time. The second material is ceramic. It's harder than stainless steel, and it also removes a little bit more metal from your blades. So it does actually have a little bit of a sharpening tendency. It's not like a knife sharpener or anything like that, but it will sharpen your blade slightly as well as straighten it. Now, the downsides of the ceramic steel are, number one, they are a little more expensive than the stainless ones. Number two, if you've got a magnetic knife rack, it's not going to stick to it because it's made of ceramic. And number three, again, since it is made out of ceramic, you got to be a little bit careful with it. If you drop it, you can shatter it. If you throw it in a drawer and throw some stuff on top of it, you can crack it. There's a lot of ways to mess it up. The third type of steel are the diamond-plated honing steels. Now, those ones have an extremely hard surface.
That's what she said.
When you hone your knife with them, this action here will take off quite a bit of metal from your knife here. So if you have a diamond honing steel, you got to be a little bit careful because you can ruin your knives very easily with those. And they tend to be pretty expensive as well. Now to show you how to properly use your honing steel. There's 2 different ways you can actually use them. The first way is to kind of do it in the air like you see all the professional chefs on TV do. And the second way, which is actually the safer way, is to anchor the honing steel down on a tabletop or a cutting board, and then alternate using a swiping action. To do the downward swiping action, just get a good grip on the handle and anchor the steel straight down into your cutting board or down into a tabletop. Then you take the blade, put it up at the top of the steel below the handle with the blade facing down. And you're going to want to use swiping actions in a downward motion on one side, then you alternate to the other side, back to the front, back to the back, back to the front, and you're going to want to do that maybe 3 or 4 times on each side of the knife. You're going to want to angle the blade into the steel at about the same angle that the blade is cut. That angle is going to kind of depend on the type of knives that you have. If you've got Japanese knives, they're going to be someplace around 15 degrees. And if you got European knives, it's going to be a little bit closer to 20 degrees. By the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. The second way you can hone is just doing it in the air. Just make sure you have a good grip on the handle and you want to keep the steel pointed away from you. With this method, you're going to be using that same angular swipe. And again, you're going to want to alternate between top and bottom. If you're holding this in midair, you need to make an effort to hold the steel pretty steady and to try to maintain that knife angle consistently on top and bottom. This method is a little bit harder to do because it's a little bit harder to maintain the right angle on the knife because your arms are moving around a little bit. However, once you get better at doing it, you can get it done a lot quicker this way. Not to mention the fact that it looks cool. At the top of the handle where the steel starts, you're going to notice it's a little bit wider there. That's actually a guard for your hand. So you're going to want to keep your hand below that, and you're going to want to be pushing the knife away from that. You don't want to bring the knife in towards you, always away. Trust me, if you're bringing that knife in towards you, it's only going to be a matter of time before you bring that in just a little bit too far, and then your day is not going to be good. When you alternate those swipes top and bottom, be sure to do the same number on the top and the bottom because you want to be able to hone that evenly on each side of the blade. If you hone your knives properly and you take care of them really well, there's no reason why you can't wait between 6 months and a year before you have to actually go and sharpen your knives again. A good way to see how effective this is when your knives start to get a little bit dull and you're having a little bit of trouble cutting things you didn't have trouble with before. Hone your blade a little bit and it should restore that cutting power. If after you hone your blade really well, it's still a little bit on the dull side, then you know it's time to sharpen your blades. At the end of the day, a honing steel is a great tool to have in your kitchen. The type that you get all kind of depends on what you have in your kitchen and the kind of results that you want to get, but all of them work really well. All you got to do is figure out what's right for you. Do you own a honing steel for your knives already? I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. Let me know what type you have and how often you use it. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Joe's Phenomenal, you can watch a couple more videos, or you can visit us online at joesphenomenal.com. I hope you got a little bit of good information out of this video and hope to see you again here really soon. Once again, my name's Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.